Welcome back to Poorly Educated Today in the News, where the country has apparently decided regular chaos was not enough. So now we are stacking political revenge, oil panic, courtroom gymnastics, and foreign policy on top of each other, like a drunk raccoon building a wedding cake. Segment 1. Primary season turns into a loyalty auction. The big story today is the Republican primaries, where the lesson seems to be pretty simple. You can vote conservative your whole life, wear a flag pin big enough to pick up satellite TV, and still get tossed out of the party if you forget to clap at the right time. Thomas Massie lost his Kentucky House primary to retired Navy SEAL Ed Galrine after the most expensive House primary in American history. And that thing had more money flying around than a county fair raffle run by defense contractors. Massie had annoyed Trump, annoyed pro-Israel groups, annoyed party leadership, and apparently annoyed enough people with checkbooks that they turned his district into a political demolition derby. $32 million in spending for one House primary is not democracy knocking on your door. That is democracy showing up in a lifted truck with flame decals and a lawyer in the passenger seat. And this was not just one race, it was a warning shot with campaign signs. Bill Cassidy got bounced in Louisiana after his old impeachment vote finally came due like a bill from a dentist you thought forgot about you. John Cornyn is fighting for his political life in Texas because Trump backed Ken Paxton, which is like the party saying, sure, the car has no brakes, but it honks real patriotic. Andy Barr won in Kentucky to replace Mitch McConnell. Tommy Tuberville is marching toward the Alabama governor's mansion, and all over the map the message is the same. Loyalty beats seniority, obedience beats policy, and principles are now stored in a locked shed behind the campaign headquarters. Meanwhile, Democrats in Pennsylvania are doing their own version of consolidation, with Josh Shapiro helping centrist candidates line up like they are trying to retake the House using spreadsheets and sensible shoes. So one party is building a loyalty machine, the other is building a turnout machine, and the rest of us are just standing at the gas pump wondering why every election now sounds like a hostage negotiation. Segment 2. The Justice Department opens a grievance lottery. While the primaries were busy turning Congress into a loyalty punch card, the Justice Department rolled out something called the Anti-Weaponization Fund, which sounds like a thing invented by a man who got sued by a mirror. The fund is reportedly worth $1.776 billion, because apparently even political revenge needs a patriotic decimal point. It comes out of a settlement involving Trump's lawsuit over his leaked tax returns. But instead of direct damages going to the plaintiffs, the money goes into a new fund for people who claim they were targeted by past administrations. That is a fancy way of saying the government may now be setting up a customer service window for political grievances, except instead of getting a coupon for your trouble, you might get taxpayer money and a formal apology wrapped in an eagle sticker. Now, supporters say this is about helping people harmed by weaponized government, which sounds nice until you notice the machinery is being built by the same administration that gets to decide who counts as harmed. Critics are calling it a slush fund, a constitutional dodge, and a way to turn the Justice Department into a loyalty rewards program. And I do not know about you, but when the government starts handing out cash through a fund managed by people serving at the pleasure of the president, I get the same feeling I get when a carnival worker says, "Don't worry, this ride only came loose twice." The grounded point here is that justice is supposed to be boring, independent, and allergic to personal vendettas. But this setup makes it feel like the DOJ is being remodeled into a complaint desk at a casino where the jackpot goes to whoever can prove they suffered the most politically convenient feelings. And if Congress cannot control the purse, the courts cannot find standing, and the bureaucracy starts resigning out the side door, then congratulations. We have invented a government piggy bank with no adult in the room. Segment 3. Iran war turns the gas pump into a hostage note. And while Washington is busy building grievance ATMs, the Middle East is sitting on the world economy like a busted tractor parked across a two-lane bridge. The Iran war has turned the Strait of Hormuz into the most expensive traffic jam on Earth, with oil markets acting like somebody poured energy drinks into a spreadsheet. Operation Epic Fury kicked this thing off months ago with US and Israeli strikes inside Iran. And now the aftermath has everybody from shippers to bond traders staring at the Persian Gulf like it is a rattlesnake under the porch. Iran closed the strait, the US answered with a blockade of Iranian ports, and now we have a dual blockade situation, which is just a fancy way of saying everybody has a hand on everybody else's throat, while the global economy asks if it can please breathe for a minute. Brent crude is sitting above $110 a barrel. Futures are showing near-term panic, and inflation is creeping back into the room like your cousin who said he was only staying for the weekend. The Federal Reserve can raise rates, lower rates, squint at charts, or sacrifice a calculator under a full moon. But none of that magically opens a shipping lane full of missiles, mines, drones, and diplomatic stubbornness. Vice President J.D. Vance says negotiations are in a pretty good spot, while Trump is also threatening another big hit if Iran does not move fast, which is the foreign policy version of smiling while revving a chainsaw. The grounded problem is brutally simple. High oil means higher transportation costs, higher food prices, higher borrowing costs, and more pressure on regular people who already feel like their paycheck is being chased through the woods by wolves. Wall Street can talk about backwardation and inflation trades all at once, but at the kitchen table level, this means filling up your tank starts to feel like buying concert tickets from a scalper with a refinery. And that leads us right back to Congress. Because nothing wakes up lawmakers faster than voters realizing foreign policy has crawled directly into their grocery bill. Segment 4. War powers, lame ducks, and the revenge of the politically unplugged. That is why the Senate vote on war powers matters. Because suddenly some Republicans are remembering Congress is supposed to have a say in wars before the whole country gets billed for one. The Senate advanced a war powers resolution aimed at forcing the president to withdraw U.S. forces from hostilities against Iran unless Congress actually authorizes the fight. Tim Kaine led the push, and 4 Republicans crossed over, including Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski, Rand Paul, and the newly liberated Bill Cassidy. Cassidy is the fun one here because he just lost his primary, which means he has gone from cautious senator to political raccoon with nothing left to lose and a trash can full of matches. This is the danger of purging your own party too aggressively. The people you beat are still in office for months, and now they no longer have to pretend they enjoy being yelled at by campaign consultants. Massey lost, Cassidy lost, but they did not vanish into the cornfield like political scarecrows. They are still voting, still talking, and now they can make trouble without worrying about the next primary, because the next primary already ran them over. The administration says the war powers law is unconstitutional and argues the clock is paused because of the ceasefire, but critics say a blockade is still hostilities, which makes sense because if someone blocks your driveway with a battleship, you do not call that a neighborhood pause. Underneath the jokes, this is a real separation of powers fight. Can a president keep a war going through executive momentum while Congress is reduced to yelling from the bleachers? And while that fight is happening, the administration is also pushing the Save America Act, trying to attach proof of citizenship voting rules to must-pass bills like a raccoon duct-taping a lawnmower engine to a church van. Segment 5. The rest of the system starts smoking. And just when you think the country has reached its daily recommended limit of constitutional indigestion, the rest of the system starts blinking red, too. Taiwan is trying to keep America's attention by promising more defense spending and more U.S. arms purchases, basically speaking to Trump in the universal diplomatic language of, "We brought receipts." China is warning that Taiwan remains the big red line. Europe is watching U.S. troop shifts with one eyebrow raised. And India is getting a soft power charm offensive with Trump and Statue of Liberty images slapped onto auto rickshaws like foreign policy got outsourced to a parade float committee. It is all transactional now, like the whole world has become a flea market, where every alliance has a sticker price and somebody is always arguing over who pays shipping. Back home, the pressure keeps piling up in ways that are less flashy but just as real. Doctors are begging Congress to make insurers follow the No Surprises Act, because apparently winning a payment dispute still does not guarantee you get paid, which is a business model usually reserved for shady roofing contractors after a hailstorm. The American Lung Association says 152 million Americans are breathing unhealthy air. The FDA is approving kid-friendly vape flavors during Asthma Awareness Month like irony has a lobbyist, and California towns are fighting giant data centers over water use, while everybody pretends artificial intelligence runs on fairy dust and motivational quotes. Bees are swarming earlier. Jets are crashing at air shows. Violence is hitting campuses. Lawsuits are flying through tech courts. And the Knicks are somehow giving America a comeback story, because sports remains the last legal form of emotional gambling before the Powerball drawing. The grounded point is that systems do not usually collapse in one giant movie explosion. They wobble, they overheat, they leak, and then one day the dashboard lights all come on at once. Right now, America looks like a pickup truck doing 90 downhill, hauling oil barrels, campaign cash, court papers, and a beehive in the bed, while the driver insists the noise is probably normal. In conclusion, today's news is one big reminder that political revenge is expensive. Foreign wars do not stay foreign. Oil prices do not care about slogans, and institutions are only as strong as the people willing to protect them when it gets inconvenient. The primaries are turning loyalty into currency. The Justice Department is being dragged into grievance politics. The Iran war is squeezing the economy. Congress is rediscovering its spine one lame duck at a time, and the rest of the country is just trying to breathe clean air, afford groceries, and not get financially body-slammed by a gas pump. So buckle up, because the truck is still rolling, the check engine light is glowing, and somebody in Washington is absolutely about to call that a mandate.